Now, some would-be allegedly flawed philosopher, probably flawed philosopher, presumably flawed philosopher, which is quite hard to say after the second or third pint. But there's an idea going around at the moment that we're living in hell on earth, and I don't think that's true. I'd just like to stamp that immediately on the ground. And I'll tell you why. Normal consciousness should be painless. That's not hell. Okay, that's one. Hell is eternal torment, it seems, consciously, in a fiery place, according to where we get the concept from. Even if that's right, which is disputable, because the lake of fire is actually different to hell in the Revelation, which is where these concepts originate from anyway. Hugely. Taken from further back in Greek, whatever. And the culture of their time, meaning Sheol and Gehenna and all that. And we know that, but St. John is very specific about his concept of hell, and we are certainly not in that. Now, are we in a place of sufferance, a prison, an evolved system of penalty, a penal colony of intergalactic cosmic form? And again, I don't think we are. Only when we're in bad moods do we think that. Only when we're really up against it and we're really suffering does that appear to be the reality. But it's always, always about perspective on earth while we're conscious and alive as human beings, whether we're in heaven or hell. Now, that isn't flippant. That isn't to say that's a simple thing to change your perspective. It's not. Your perspective is a very strong focus field of determined assumptions into what warrants reality as we make it. But if you can alter the machinations of a forced mode of thinking from fixed negative thinking into more holistic, spiritual, open-minded, brighter, some might say intelligent fields of thought, then the world does not appear to be hell. It becomes more of a poetic wonderland of joy and love. And that is really what all the artists and the greats are trying to tell you and mine for their providence in life. And it really is hugely about perspective. And when you're an addict, that's what they're really chasing. They're chasing a utopian perspective. It's like an escape daily from the sufferance they see as life otherwise. Because they've become so used to this high ideal of fond, utopian, perfect, blissful living in a heightened state of chemically induced phantasm. That the everyday humdrum, the everyday painless boredom construct that we're innately born with, congenitally, well, that just doesn't no longer fulfill the quota for what is required as non-hell. However, hell as a true experience, in my personal experience, is something so bad and painful and it's frightening that I wouldn't wish it for anyone. And anyone who did wish it for people, including me, you don't want to know, and I don't want to know. And I don't want to know anyone who thinks that way, because that is pure evil. And it was so painful. I'm still ruptured years later, essentially because of that frickin' drug, LSD. I didn't go the full Syd Barrett. I can still vaguely talk and machinate as vague sentences of some complex comprehension. But it was close. I lost 10 years of my life to Risperdal, that horse's tranquilizer. 10 years of my life I mutated into this grotesque being of chemically by the state induced horrific bore of utter incredulous bollocks religiously, even though I still believe in God and take the faith in God very seriously. But back then I don't think I was a very nice person at all. If I looking back, I don't know what I was, but it was not good. I was a weirdo. Oh dear, and I was so religious. I was a Messianic Jew in Hampshire, for heaven's sake. Can you believe it? Oh dear. Now I'm just an enlightened groove rider. But one with the gods. One with Mother Earth, being one of the gods. Gaia, her buddy. Maybe her husband. God, of course, aka Jah. And the Spirit of Jesus on this happy Easter period. And this is the special Monday after the Easter where we all give thanks once again to splendid Christianity and the wealth of liberty it affords us in freedom. And without that knowledge of freedom and truth, without that comfort blanket of well-being for a host of millions, well then what is Blighty? What is Great Britain? It is not where we call home, and we shall not accept any false cult seeking to demonize our people's ways because of ignorant understanding from foreign sources. We shall deny them because they're cack. We shall deny them because they're wrong. We shall deny them because we're smarter. We shall deny them because we know better. We shall deny them because we're more enlightened. We shall deny them because we know more. And in this, I am not wrong. And I am very thankful to be sat here on my own, just breathing the summer sun. And the air is so perfectly beautiful and mellifluous around me that how can you call this hell? It is not hell. Hell is truly awful. Another form of sufferance is a monstrous woman, a terrible girlfriend, wife. I only speak from the male point of view on this because I haven't had a boyfriend because I'm not a woman. So I'm speaking from a male perspective on this, and there is a lady, a form of woman who is psychotically off the chart, corruptly insane. There's a few of them in fact, and they have been known to willfully destroy men's lives in their psychotic behaviour, with no seeming apparent understanding of the concept of accountability or conscience. And you sometimes wonder, are these incarnations of God sent to try us in a hellish form? But again, they are not what I would warrant or consider or justify as hell itself, a place of such utter, terrifying, long-term, perpetual, non-stop sufferance, that having tasted a micron of it for 10 hours, 10 hours, there is no way, Jose, I will ever be the same again. It was so bad. Ever since, it's not been hell. Ever since I got out of it through prayer, and prayer alone, and repentance in that prayer. Oh yeah, it was repenting. Well, every day's been a gentle, upward, slow, increasing slope. Always going up. Towards betterment, towards the light, towards the happiness. Towards a better ideal for people, a more caring society, and a more peaceful nature among man. Now I know this isn't happening everywhere. Middle East, when has that not been fisticuffs? And where else, really? Oh, some African tribes hate each other. Don't they always? Send in the British Empire, I say. Get some law and order in there. America, live by the gun, die by the gun. But as for everywhere else, it's all pretty moderate and chipper. As you'd hope to expect from an enlightened community of intelligent souls, all connected to God in some civic, peaceable, harmonious, delightful way of wonder. And I'm very thankful for that. I really am. Because that, again, is not hell. That is anything but hell. Fascist politicians, they are on the periphery of hell making, I imagine, for their own sakes as well as others. But they're just entertainers, really, aren't they, for the masses to shout all the bollocks they want to hear. The concept of hell is a dark, dark, dark power of insight and knowing. And I wish to God, actually, I'd never even ever met it. But for the few hours it worked on me in a poisoned form, I was shaped. I was warped forever beyond the scope of normal knowledge into a deformed, hideous, twisted, malformed mind that could only cogitate in certain ways on specifics. And how I suffered those 10 hours in that chair. That was hell. Save for the fact it wasn't forever. And if anyone were to put me in that consciously for hell, they would be the devil. And that is why I, as a subscriber to God, wouldn't even do that to my worst enemy, whose name actually equals 666 in Greek isopsophy. I wouldn't do it to him because it really is as much of a cliche as it is in the old films where the goodie goes for the baddie and the baddie explains how he's going to kill the baddie before he fucks up in some way, and then the goodie goes, I'm not going to kill you because I'm better than you. I'm going to let you deal with your own consequences, or something like that. He essentially leaves the bad guy to deal with his fall from grace and his dealing with his own conscience. Now he knows the truth of absolute virtue and morality. At one level of reading these fundamental stories. And that's such a huge notion of truth in more than one perspective. But I wouldn't do it to him. I wouldn't do it to him. God can punish those he wants to punish to hell. I will be lucky if I get out of here alive. And salvation is the dream and the only dream I have for me left. When I was young, I dreamed of many things. I wanted to be a rock star. I wanted to be a film director. That was about it, really. But I wanted to be an author as well. I have been all three, really, but not at the level that you have to require to make the big bucks. I wasn't very good at any of them, but I tried. I still want to be a filmmaker, but not all the time. I want to make important films. Important to me. Not just free riffraff. Not that much is. People often say, oh, there's nothing on the TV as usual. But they don't actually know what they're talking about. A lot of time, intelligence, effort and work has gone into making everything you see on the television. And I think that's a remarkable feat of humanity to do that for a society. So essentially, they're perpetually being stimulated by intelligent, entertaining information. And that's remarkable. This has only happened in the last 100 years or so. It's a brave new world. It's 1984. And yet, 1984 and Brave New World are totally polar opposites in dystopian visions of the future. They're not the same. Not really. One, they're all shagging each other on pills and brutalising savages in the countryside, and the other, they're all watching TV or something, and the hero wants to smash his wife in with a rock at the beginning. And then it gets very oppressive about doublethink. Oh, dear heaven. What we read, we project. And what we think about oft in our world and our struggle through time is how we reflect society, which is open to all concepts, really. This is why I was a huge advocate for a while for ismism, which is the anti-ism, actually. It's an ism that is seen through all isms. So it just stands for all isms or no isms, depending on what the ism is doing at the point in time. See, this is the power of ismism. You understand all isms. You don't need all isms because you see the folly in all isms. But thanks to your superior ismism, your ism is good to go, and you are free in ismism. It's why I coined it, because it was true. It accepts them all, but apart from the ones that don't accept, but you can't accept if you're going to accept anyone. Not that I think that last bit made sense. But anyway, ismism is the way forward. But ismism shouldn't include blatant frickin' evil. And some people are so ghastly, they say there is no such thing as evil. That's wrong, mate. I'm sorry, but there is an evil energy in this world. I've seen it on occasion, not many times. Although you could argue I've been infected by it for 30 years with schizophrenia. But that wasn't me. That's my psychic spiritual infestation. That's not me as a core human being. So that's why I don't perceive my experience as my understanding of reality as it is. However, I do know there's an evil force, because I've felt it 2 or 3 times, I think, creep into my soul and make me want to do something ghastly. And I've morally overridden it very quickly by realizing, oh my God, this is a foreign infestation spiritually with darkness in it. You can feel the spiritual darkness in it when it creeps in. One time I do remember, I was going to put a fag out on my dog. Like this enemy force crept into my ear, made my soul malignant and my mind. And I gleed with wanting to put a fag out on poor little Tiggs. And suddenly I thought, what the fuck am I doing? My morality, which is my usual registered consciousness, my normal self, my innate intelligence as a rational, decent human being, overrode that force and expelled it from my being. And I felt ashamed, I felt shocked, and I was appalled at myself for even thinking about it. But that proved to me that evil was an exterior, malignant, alien, dark, tenebrous force. So if we let it consume you, or you, I can imagine your life will go to hell very quickly. If I put my fag out on the dog, God, can you imagine what would have happened? My name would be mud in the family. I'd be crucified, rightly so, or in one way or another, for being an absolute scumbag. Right? That is why the evil force is not the innate force of babies who are born innocent. You wave at a baby, they go, ah, and they know. See, babies, as I was saying before we got rudely cut off by the 20-minute cut-off window of the storage card of the hard disk, respond to innocence by going, and if there's anything horrible or negative or dark, they go, oh. I've seen it in Ablett. I remember. Wow. I don't remember being scared often, actually. No, she wasn't scared as a child. Not much. I remember she broke down in tears when she realised evil amongst her peers. And she had worked long and hard playing Roblox to win herself a golden unicorn. And she gave this golden unicorn to a young lad online, and they shamefully had a feature where you could take it with no way for the person who truly owned the golden unicorn to get it back. So effectively, she learnt theft at a young age. Now, this was a horrific evening being a parent, because it was devastating in my daughter's eyes to see that fall from innocence. She was so lovely that all the time raising her, and yet the sadness when she realised some people are evil was devastating. I will never forget that night, the night of the golden unicorn. So anyway, we pressured on. And if babies are very sensitive to existence because they're laced with mother's milk, which is supernatural, and they're fresh newborn babies, and they all look great. And God gives them powers to survive by innate protectionism of their parents 99% of the time, you'd like to think. And that yet they go off and they wander and they explore. And it is so much better when you analyse the behaviour of that innocence as a man of God than it is to wax on about the importance of Christ. When we all know the importance of Christ, but the importance of Christ is so divinely important to so many in so many differential polarised forms that it is impossible to express in one pithy moment without just seeking to be the new kid on the block in the realm of Jesus espousing. And it gets to the stage where, as a Christian for 31 years and more, it gets tiresome expressing the same old cliches, and it becomes a cliche. It's as though our salvation has become a fad. And nothing could be worse than true hell, which is not what I meant. And I would like to state this for the record again, to stipulate the entire point of making this long-suffering video, this diatribe into the oratory of what it is to know a little gram of something about something. That no, we are not in hell. Not yet. And may you never be. Because I don't want to put people in hell. My job, as I like to think it, is to save people from that terror. Which is why I'm a bit of a cloud of worms around here. Oh God, this is complicated. It's going to take a novel. I'm going to have to write a novel about this very thought machinating in my mind now. It's the very core reality of the subtext of the sufferers I have experienced, as well as everyone else in their imagination. But I am the cathexis of their focus for all blame and conjecture. And not conjecture. Opprobrium. That's the correct word. It was hard to fetch, it wasn't natural, it wasn't off the tongue, but I got there quicker than most people could find the word opprobrium. And I'll say that 3 times. Opprobrium. Opprobrium. The point is, far too much opprobrium in my life has been placed on me for things I never did. This has been a constant theme of my life. Yeah, I did wrong when I was a teenager. A lot. I was a thief. I was on drugs. I fornicated. I lied. I stole. Oh, I said I was a thief. I was probably an atheist for a while. I'm not too sure how long the atheism really lasted. There was a Buddhist patch as well. And a Hindu one. Just exploring the options really. But no, once I came to Jesus, which is another reason for making this lengthy diatribe into the sufferance of issue, I became very thankful in my glorious salvation for a better world and holy glory in Father and God, because I knew I was healed through a miraculous moment that you'll never understand scientifically, and nor will I, and nor will anyone but God. And me, because I'm in me, although I don't understand it scientifically, if that makes sense, although I know what happened to me. But it's all good from Winnebago to the Sway, and I trust it's all good from Diego to the Bay. And in light of anything exciting happening, I don't want anything too exciting to happen, because that's how you give old gentlemen heart attacks, through the terror of a thrill. Don't tell anyone I told you that, just in case people die. But never mind. I don't want to be the cause of any evil, and I've never wanted to be the cause of any evil. And that is one reason I do not live in hell. Which this is not, as I've repeated now in this video, I like to think, a numerous amount of times. And hopefully this will be a lesson to you all. It may not be exactly pinky perfect in your ideal wonderland of Judadidin, but it's not hell.